But my beats, they are hard.
All right. Hello, good evening. Welcome to another live episode of the BCSN SportsWrap right here. Bryan and A.D. Drew, what's going on with the hood, man? What?
Ain't that how the kids warm up these days on the basketball court, man?
I guess you letting your kids wear hoods in warm-ups?
They do it at the college level.
Do they really?
Yes.
I've never seen that.
Yes, yes, they do.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought that was some kind of some homage to the draft and everything. You know, I got the draft day fits and everything. I thought that was what you were doing.
Yeah, there's some people who need to go and hide after what we saw transpire 3 previous days.
Oh.
A lot of pundits are punding on their mispundifications.
A lot of people got it right. Let's just say a lot of people got it wrong.
Most people got it wrong. Let's be real. Everybody got one thing wrong.
Yes, they did. But actually, I came across a video of somebody who actually got it right, dead right. And so, shout out. I if I can find it in my Twitter feed, I'll tell you who that was. But tonight's show, as we recap the past week, it was a big weekend in the NFL draft, and one particular name, one story sort of sucked all the air out of the room.
Sucked it out, dominated the conversation. You could even hear about the stories of the other players because everybody was concentrating on one story, and rightly so. It was the major story of the draft, and we'll get into a little bit of it as we get into this show. So,
for about 140 some odd picks, Drew, I didn't even know there were other guys getting drafted. To be honest, I mean, it's for about 140 some odd picks.
Bryan, who had it on their bingo card that a player from an HBCU would get drafted before Shador?
Hey, exactly. That was not on the bingo card.
141 versus 144.
Yes,
that was not on the bingo card.
Not on the bingo card. But we got a few things to talk about on tonight's show as it relates to the 2025 NFL draft. We'll get into that, and then maybe try to find some time during the course of this show to give some love and kind of talk about what's going on the diamond and maybe the track as well. Obviously, the spring season means it's at this point, and as we head to the end of the month, beginning of May, you're really focused in on the softball postseason, the regular season coming to an end, which I think it has pretty much come to an end for everybody. Baseball is still, some divisions are starting tournaments, some are ending tournaments, or getting close to the tournaments, I should say. But and then maybe we'll find some time to talk about track. We'll see. Might even be a few other I wouldn't say HBCU, but just college athletic stories that are floating about that I think we need to make mention of, pay attention to, and kind of talk about as we go. But before we get into the hot topic for today, got to make sure we welcome everybody who's joining the show, however and wherever you're watching us. You might be watching us on Facebook, watching us on the Black College Sports Network Facebook page, or the BCSN SportsWrap page, Also watching us on the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page. That's at MyJBN Online. I want to encourage you guys to hit the thumbs up and the like button. Also, hello to everybody watching on X or Twitter, as I still want to call it. And then, of course, Instagram Live as well. We might have a few people that see us on there, but that's it. Any and everywhere that we are, so hello and hit the thumbs up and the like button, however and wherever you're watching us. Get that in early.
Bryan, before we come back in the fall for football season, I would love for us to expand our presence on Threads and Blue Sky. Also,
are those two platforms? Are you able to stream live on those platforms?
That I'm not 100% sure, but even just still with in articles, posts, and things like that, I would love for the Black College Sports Network to be able to expand to those particular platforms, because as people really start to step away from X, the Muskie app.
Are they? I don't know. People say they're moving away from X, but I don't know.
Well, let me put you like this. I'm starting to see more and more of people who I follow on Blue Sky and Threads. I'm starting to see more and more posts from organizations that are not politically affiliated on those particular apps. And let's be real, Facebook and Twitter have become a lot more politicized nowadays.
You think?
Yeah, I think. I don't know how some of these algorithms find me with some of the posts. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, well, I'm not smart. Look, I'm smart about some things, and know there's some other things that I'm not in. So I'm not. I don't know. I know some programs know what I like, and I get a lot of that. Probably a little too much of it. And then there's other programs I think that are maybe trying to feed me certain things. I don't know. So I'm one of those people. I can be sort of I can look at something from the window and just be comfortable with window shopping. I really don't have to go in to the store. I can do just fine looking outside the window. So kind of gotten used to it over the years. So
right.
Anyway, but yeah, look. Hey, with that said, if we can get a social media manager, Drew, all that can be possible.
That and a lot more.
Yeah. So anybody looking for an internship opportunity, anybody looking for just want to join the team and be a part of what it is we're doing. All right. I mean, look, we're open. Open, looking for people that want to be down. You thought about getting in this space and want to help out, and as Drew said, help push some content to those other platforms, because it's a grind just in a few places that we're at right now. It's a grind, and then trying to get those numbers up is a headache in itself. So let me not get too depressed talking about that, Drew, and kind of get into the lead story from the 2025 NFL Draft weekend. And it was, why did former Jackson State and Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, why did it take him 143? Well, probably not 143. Why did it take him 40 to 42 picks to be taken? That's the big story. Shedeur Sanders drafted in day 3, round 5, pick 144 by the Cleveland Browns, Drew, who had actually already passed on him in the 3rd round to draft Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. But they came back around in the 5th and drafted Sanders. And of course,
they traded up to get Sanders.
Yes, they traded up to get Sanders. So passing, look, every 90% of the draft mocks analysis that I had seen leading into the draft had him going in the first round. Definitely not going first. I mean, that went to Miami's Cam Ward, but didn't go in the first day. Teams that people believe needed a quarterback would draft him. Didn't. Then you move into day 2, and then it got really interesting because the same teams that passed on him on day 1 passed on him on day 2, which was rounds 2 and 3. And then left the big question on Saturday night began to be, okay, why? Why is he being passed over? So we'll start there, Drew, with that big question. Definitely why do you think he was passed over? And then I'll get my thoughts. And let me first say hello to all of our friends who are joining us in the chat room. You know, G Boom, Chuck Hunt, Troy White, Jeff Roberts, Johnny Thornton. Say hello to all of you and many more. Those of you if
Mary
come join us on the chats. Mary 305, thank you. Hello to everyone checking in. But Drew, what's your thought? Why do you think it took so long for him to get selected?
Bryan, this is not my child. This is not a player who I coach or have an association with. I have met him once or twice. I have had conversations with him. And, you know, I have never personally had those type of vibes that some people say some of those other people have said that they felt about him with the cockiness and everything. And let me say this, Bryan, before I go any further, and I've been a victim of this. You've probably been a victim of this. A lot of African Americans who have found themselves successful in their fields have been victims of this. There's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. There's even a finer line between the perception of confidence and cockiness. When you're of the establishment and you have those traits and you don't look like us, you're a real go-getter. You're somebody who may be aggressive in their pursuit of their passion. When you tend to look like us, that's where that word cocky, arrogant tend to come off and rub people the wrong way. Just an observation from my 50 plus years of living. And like I said, I have been a victim of that. But hell, it's my personality, Bryan. You know me, you've known me for 30 plus years. This is my personality. And do I know I rub some people the wrong way? Yeah. Do you know you rub some people the wrong way? Sure. It's just one of those. Ask anybody from Jackson State.
Oh, see, there you go. Can't count them. So anyway, go ahead.
But no, seriously though. But it's just one of those things, man. And as we watch the real life case study,
true,
turn into a train wreck, and cost this young man $40 million. Yeah, that's the difference in the value of that first round contract versus a potential fifth round contract. Right. Guaranteed money versus you got to make the squad. So, and I'm gonna get to the daddy portion of it in just a moment. It's real. It was real interesting, Bryan. But I think back of a couple of other individuals, Bryan. First one that came to mind was Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
You know, Johnny Manziel comes to mind because let's think about him coming out of Texas A&M.
Heisman Trophy winner.
And he had who as his star wide receiver?
Mike Evans, if I'm not mistaken.
So, did Mike Evans make Johnny Manziel? Or did Johnny Manziel make Mike Evans?
Good point.
Did Shador make Travis, or did Travis make Shador?
Okay.
So that's one of those things. And let's be real, Johnny Manziel, ironically, wound up in Cleveland. but for lack of a better word, he was a bust. That's one that comes to mind.
Well, can I go ahead? Because I'm gonna write because I'm
gonna throw a couple other. I'm gonna just throw a couple
because I want to. It's funny. I'm gonna write these down because I want to respond because there's a couple things that I find interesting about the Manziel comparison that I think that I haven't thought of. But go ahead.
And think about everything that went on around Johnny Football. You know, Johnny Football.
Yeah.
You know, but he still was. He didn't go as high as maybe you thought he would have, but he still went respectable as far as his draft stock. Obviously, I don't even want to say Ryan Leaf because we know what that turned out to be. But you know, you think about back in that day, and your Indianapolis Colts were seriously contemplating Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning.
Yep.
1A, 1B.
Yep.
And there were a lot of teams, Cam Ward, Shador. Well, that's what the people on the street were saying, Cam Ward or Shador. And then you started hearing Jackson Dart coming to the conversation. Excuse me, who the hell was Jackson Dart? Just because he went to the same school that Eli Manning went to? All right. Then I think of Todd Marinovich.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If you remember Todd Marinovich, this was the kid who never had a Big Mac growing up.
Right.
And his dad controlled a lot of everything. He remember he was robo quarterback.
Yep.
Coming out of USC.
Yep.
And I think about that and the Shador, and the prime factor in this. You know, those are just some of the things that just popped into my head as I was thinking about this quarterback comparisons to the train wreck that we saw. I'm gonna let you respond before I get into a few other comments.
Well, okay. So the biggest thing that I think occurred here is that the Sanders camp overplayed their hand. They really overplayed their hand in this situation. And it wasn't until after day 3 that you realized that there wasn't a real legitimate agent that was a part of being in the Sanders camp. There was no Drew Rosenhaus. There was no Lee Steinberg. There was no Nicole. Who's the young lady who's Jalen Hurts agent? Nicole something. I can't think of her name. But no, there wasn't a legitimate agent that was a part of this. Because I think if there was a legitimate agent in the Sanders camp, some of the things that occurred in the process would have been done differently. Now, here's what I mean by that. From all reports, right, and we all listen to a lot of the same people, and thankfully, you know, Twitter gives voices to anybody that we miss, right? But by all reports, Drew, there are certain key things that he did not do, which other quarterbacks had done. For example, you mentioned Johnny Manziel. The one thing that I heard about Johnny Manziel in his pre-draft process is he interviewed really, really well. Like, he knew the GMs, names, knew their. I mean, he had done research on people and what they were and who they were. Like, he went into those meetings very well prepared. Reports are that Shedeur Sanders was not. And there was even a couple reports by, I think it was the guy Tom Pelissaro on the NFL Network or something, that it said a pair of GMs had told him that it was one of the worst interviews they've ever had with a player. And regardless of whether those were organizations that you didn't want to play for, there's a respect for the process, Drew, that wasn't adhered to, seems to be, right? You mentioned Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf had the measurables. He worked out. Marinovich, Manziel, all these guys worked out. Shedeur apparently didn't work out at the combine, didn't work out at the practices for the camps.
Other people have not worked out at the combine.
Okay, correct. Other people have not. But in the All-Star game practices, is there anybody, Drew, that has not worked out at practices for the All-Star games, not worked out at the combine, and then had their pro day be the very last pro day? That's an interesting pattern, right? That I don't think anybody has ever done. It's like, okay, I get you don't want to work out for that's fine. But, did those same people not practice? Because he didn't have to play in the All-Star game. He could have practiced in the All-Star game. And a lot of people get some evaluation of what you can do in those practices, right? Say you don't want to get hurt in the actual game. Okay, we get it. The practices are controlled. No one's going to hit the quarterback in those practices, right? So, but he could have practiced. He could have showed his leadership skills. He could have showed his ability in those practice settings. But apparently he didn't do all that. So when I say they overplayed their hand by thinking that all I had to do was rely on my tape, which the tape is good. But here's my other point, Drew, and now I'll turn it over to you. When people don't know you personally, you have to step into a room and impress them. And I think for a young man who has only had his father as his college and high school coach, he did not have or learn the ability of impressing someone else to get a job, which is what you and I go through. Everybody in our chat room, 99% of y'all, this is what you go through. You have to impress somebody to get a job at some point in your life, because your parents, maybe at some point, whether they were whether it was a job or a team, somebody has to sort of validate what your parent already knows. And that your parent knows that, hey, this is a class A1 person. This person will make your organization better. Daddy knows that. Mama knows that. But guess who else needs to know that? 32 GMs, owners, vice presidents, right? They all need to know that. And they can't tell that off of TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram videos. And because that's skewed. That's not reality. Maybe it is. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, Drew? So I think they overplayed their hand, and somebody he needed an agent to help him with the pre-draft process better. And I think had that happened, Drew, he would have at least gone, I think, in the second round, maybe even the first round.
Bryan, and you make very valid points, and we probably gonna do some counterpoint right now. What I want you to think about this: what did Deion Primetime Sanders do that Archie Manning did not do for Eli? Because they took very similar approaches. Remember, Eli Manning refused to play for the San Diego Chargers at that point in time. What did Primetime Sanders do that Jack Elway did not do for his son John, who refused to play for the Baltimore Colts at that point in time. Daddy controlled the narrative in both of those situations.
Okay, my counterpoint to that, in both of those situations, Eli Manning worked out at the NFL Combine. I'm looking at it right here. He worked out. He had not only pro days, but I'm looking here to try to see if he actually participated. He participated in the process. Now, and John Elway had another sport that he could lean on. So they were kind of playing the leverage of another sport. I get that he tried to pull, whether you call it Archie or Eli or whatever it was he called it. He tried to, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, Drew. I really don't. But I think with that said, there was a lack of respect for the process, so that when he did speak to certain teams, and whether those were teams that he didn't want to go to, if he bombed those interviews on purpose, or whether he was just unprepared for it, I mean, that message, that interview, Drew, got spread across to other teams. It had to have. It had to. That's the only thing I can think of.
Right. But isn't this also the son of the same guy who intentionally bombed a couple of interviews so that he could get drafted by the Atlanta Falcons? I forgot.
Is that what he did?
Yes, he has come out and said that. I can't remember who was drafted because he went number 5 to the Falcons.
He did go number 5, yeah.
I can't remember who was ahead of
which draft was that? Which draft was that?
That would have been the 1990 draft because he came out after the 89 season because his first year was my first year in Tallahassee.
You sure it was the 90 draft?
Yeah. His last college season was 1989.
No. It wasn't the 90 draft. Because the 90 draft was Jeff George. I think it was the 89 draft.
No, George was 91.
No, I'm looking at it. George was 90. I'm sitting here looking at it.
All right.
Yeah, okay. It was the 89 draft class.
Okay.
89 draft class. You had Troy Aikman, who went to Dallas. Tony Mandrich, who went to Green Bay.
And that's another
Sanders,
story in itself.
Barry Sanders, who went to Detroit. Derek Thomas, who went to Kansas City. That was all who went before Sanders. So who knows? If you want to go with the thought that maybe he tanked interviews, maybe I could foresee maybe that he tanked. Detroit was bad, so it was bad. Green Bay was cold, probably didn't want to go there. Who knows? Maybe Kansas City. Kansas City was okay at the time, but he was probably looking at Atlanta. Atlanta and Tampa were the two teams that he was probably thinking, if I go in and perform poorly, I can either go to Atlanta or I can go to
you didn't want to go to those Tampa Bay Bucks.
But he was in Florida. Don't forget, he was a Florida kid, right? He's Florida, Fort Myers. Yeah. Fort Myers, right? And he played at Florida State. So he's a Florida guy. And don't forget the influence of Florida football at that point in time, right? He made Florida State a name. So there was a big backing that he could have rolled into. He could have made a lot. I mean, he made a lot of money in Atlanta, but he could have made just as much money, in there. So, but again, it's not the refusal of going to a particular team, Drew, but I'm talking about
the process. And I respect that. That is totally respectable. Yeah. And keep in mind, everybody, we are looking at this from 40,000 feet above. we have no inside knowledge.
Oh, the real stories are going to start to come out this week.
Yes.
The real stories on what happened, they're going to start to come out because there were teams who could have used his services. Look, I can go through about 5 teams that really needed his services. Pittsburgh, for one, needed.
I thought after, as it got deep, especially when it got to day 3, I wonder why the Miami Dolphins did draft him, because I mean, you got Tua Tissue as your quarterback down there in Miami, so I think that would have been a good situation for him.
Look, you can go to Las Vegas Raiders, where Tom Brady is the GM, who is his mentor. I mean,
that's another one that shocked me.
So here's the big, and so here's a couple of thoughts that I have, right? And this maybe is a shot or a wake-up call at, does Coach Prime, I don't know if an agent would have done this, or is the influence of Coach Prime in the NFL overrated?
Yeah.
I mean, because
I'm gonna tell you what it is, Brian. He had to go because Coach Prime has come out blatantly and said it. The only team he would ever coach in the NFL is the one that his son played quarterback for, not the one his son will play defensive back for, his other son, but his son would play quarterback for. So with that and the fragile egos that you have,
that part right there.
First of all, there are only 32 jobs out there, and you have to do whatever you do to protect that job if you're one of the 32. And there are very few coaches who could have taken that risk. Mike Tomlin could have taken it.
But he didn't.
No, he didn't. No, I'm just saying he could have. He could have.
But the whole fragile ego thing.
Denver is another one that could have done it. LA, because how much longer does golf have?
I'm amazed at
LA is another one.
That narrative right there, Drew, that people are running with, that people are threatened by. I mean, you mean to tell me that you can't control the spin, that you are so worried that his whatever is so big that you're going to allow it to be a distraction in your organization? Really? I mean, if reporters want to ask those questions, you can choose not to answer it. You can choose to say, "Oh, you have questions regarding." I mean, I'm just blown away that it's the same thing that people say, "Oh, they don't want to deal with so and so's mom and their family." I'm like, wait a minute, where is your sense of ownership in the fact that this is my team, my organization, our team organization, and that we're not going to let out. Look, there's one thing about working with somebody who has strong influences from parents or agents, but to be dominated and controlled is weak. And it's surprising every time I hear it brought up. It's weak, man.
Brian, it happens at the collegiate level. There are players who get passed up every day because of helicopter parents at the collegiate level.
That's the collegiate level, Drew. We're talking the professional sports level,
which is the college level.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Stop it. No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Don't do
Brian,
it. No,
Shador made more money the last 2 years in NIL than he will this year as a professional.
It's still not professional sports.
It might as well be.
Well,
and that's something else.
We'll agree to disagree.
That's something else that we need to look at, Brian, with the professionalization of amateur sports, which are no longer amateur. The control. This is the first time that those 256 players that were drafted, Brian, whatever the number is, this is the first time that those players would not be in control.
I see that word control being talked about, and
because with the newfound freedoms in college athletics, Johnny can go to whatever school he wants to.
that's right.
Ask for with no salary cap, ask for a specific amount of NIL. School pays, school doesn't pay. We just saw basically the first trade in college football between Tennessee and UCLA with their quarterbacks. So that you're going from being able to control your narrative and everything around you to somebody else telling you.
But Drew,
and
these are billion dollar industries, Drew. Each franchise is a $1 billion team that has a multitude of people in its PR departments.
When has one of those players been paid $1 billion yet? No. Those billionaires are still in control of the billionaires.
Okay, yes, that is the case. But I'm saying there's an organization. When we talk about the organization, so
there's not an organization in college. There's not an organization in high school.
There's an organization in college. I think we're
an organization structure everywhere. And here's something else that we have not talked about, Brian. The fact that Shedeur comes from money. He comes from money.
He does.
And there's this perception, right or wrong, that those people who come from money don't have the will or the passion that those who do not come from money. Shedeur is not buying a house for his mama or his daddy with his first check.
If he wanted to buck that, if he wanted to dispel that myth, Drew, apparently he didn't do a good job in the interview process to be able to dispel that myth.
That's
again. I'm gonna choose to look at the process, because now what's crazy is, and I started. There's a point in here. Who was it? A&T Roy brought up a good point. He said teams didn't want to deal with the circus that might come along with him being Shedeur, right? Sometimes distraction and issues overrule talent. That part is true. And the NFL is one league that most coaches, they don't want to deal with the perceived distractions.
Colin Kaepernick.
Right? Okay, that come with it. Now, but what's funny about this, all the Browns did was bring the attention. The Browns brought the distraction because you drafted another quarterback 2 rounds earlier when you could have easily had Shedeur in the 3rd round. Oh, so wait a minute. And this is the question that everybody who's a Cleveland Brown reporter should have been asking. I don't know if I heard it. Somebody should have said, help us understand. You drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. You drafted Shedeur in the 5th round. Did you not think Shedeur was 3rd round talent? That I would have just left it at that. Because if that's what you're telling me, then that organization and that team is being mismanaged. Which, I mean, we know, we see it, but it confirmed what we maybe didn't know, is that it is being horribly mismanaged. If that was because all you did after a whole 2 days of noise, right? You passed on him with the number. What did they have? They traded out to get the 5th pick, right? They traded out of the number 2 spot to get the 5th pick. Then you went to the 3rd round, didn't draft him. And then you waited until the 5th round to draft him.
And Brian, let's add one more grain of irony to everything you just said. Who has been on the quarterback roster for the last 3 years?
Deshaun Watson. You're talking for the Browns.
Yes.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson.
So you talk about distractions and everything else. You know, if there's one organization that
Yeah, you know. Yeah, maybe they can handle it better than most, Drew. I mean, we've been looking at this entirely wrong. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we've been looking at it entirely wrong.
Throwing good money after bad and everything else. It's the Cleveland Browns.
I agree with I'm tend to agree with David Garner here that the owner made the GM and coaches draft Shedeur, and there's a look that look where you see them kind of and everyone's clapping, everyone's kind of like yeah. You know, I'm willing to I tend to believe this, and that's the same owner who said draft Johnny Manziel.
And the same owner who said trade for Deshaun Watson.
Right. And draft Baker Mayfield too. I think it was the same guy who did that same.
So are we seeing a trend here?
We see a trend. So all right, let's kind of move forward. So now Shedeur gets his shot. Okay, former Jackson State. But you know, let's spin it forward because we can talk about big takeaways from the draft overall. Let me come to this question. One big takeaway from all of this, Drew, and then I want to move forward with the conversation, make mention of a couple other things interesting in the draft. What's the one big takeaway that you get from this entire saga?
Can I give you two? I got to give you two.
I'll take two. Go ahead.
Okay. But number one is, I don't want to call it the hate, the narratives that were put out there. Because despite everything around Shedeur during the draft and post-draft, one of the biggest stories that really pissed me off, and that's the best way that I could put it, before the draft was about Travis Hunter. And the fact that his father had to get clearance from his probation officer or parole officer or whatever officer in order to travel to New York for the draft. And this being out there, this being the narrative of a young man who has, for lack of better words, done everything the right way. He had the incident with his girlfriend that played out on social media a few months ago. But other than that, he's had his nose clean. Mm-hmm. And this was the narrative that a lot of people were pushing out there. So one takeaway I want to give is my disappointment over the whole process. How it's almost like baseball arbitration, Brian. And I don't know if you're familiar with the arbitration system in baseball, where you've produced for these 3 years. Now we got to go in front of an arbitrator to determine your salary for the next 3 years. Oh, you tell me how great you are, which you're supposed to do. I tell you how much you suck, and I don't want to pay you more than this amount. But when it's all said and done, we got to kiss and make this baby and go out and compete together for the next 3 years. It's almost kind of like that, like they push these things out so they can devalue these professional athletes. Now, I no longer can call them student athletes in the process. But you're supposed to be happy, all smiles and giggly, and say, and yes, master, once you sign this contract. Mm. So that's narrative number one for me. Narrative number two is, depending on how we want to count it, but if we count players that finish their careers with an HBCU, we hit the under once again. With the 1.5 being the number, we had one HBCU player who was drafted. Although we're going to talk about the other brother, Shiloh, who does have a degree from Jackson State, who has signed as a UDFA along with a few other players. Kendall Bowler from Florida A&M is another one off the top of my head. So congratulations to all of those, the one drafted and the others who will have the opportunity as a UDFA to show that they can play football at that level.
All right. My one big takeaway, I already mentioned it a little bit, is you can't skirt the process. The process. You know, there's a control that the NFL wants to have. There's a control that the NFL will have. And this weekend, we have seen the NFL tell anyone, regardless of how much money you make, take a look at the process that Cam Ward went through on his journey to be drafted. And look at the process that Shedeur Sanders went through. And two people who were highly regarded as two of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Both of them, you know, at one point, it was a 50-50 shot as who would be the number 1 guy. Right? Numbers are numbers. And, you know, people will nitpick the numbers all day, but there's a process to this. And I think when you are the quarterback, and again, the most important position in the NFL is a quarterback.
In most position, important position in team sports.
Fair enough. I would challenge and say a pitcher might be
once every 5 days. Once every 5 days.
All right. Okay, I got you.
That's why I have to go to quarterback.
But the NFL, I've heard someone so eloquently state one time that the NFL is a TV show about quarterbacks. Just look at the way they protect, care for quarterbacks, right? Look how they pay quarterbacks. It's a TV show about quarterbacks. I've heard that said, and I chuckle, and I don't disagree. But the process for a quarterback is different than a process for a running back, wide receiver, offensive tackle, defensive guy, whatever, cornerback, safety. It's different. And so the process is, and you can't get away from going through the process, regardless of who you really want to play for, because you never know who is talking about you. And so I think that has to be respected. And I hope that in the future, anyone who's looking at this and say, man, and there may not be anyone whose background and family background matches this. Well, I can't say that, because in a year or two, you got another Manning that'll come.
You got next year.
Yeah, whether it's next year or the year after, there's another Manning coming along, you know. But I bet you anything, he'll go through the process. It's a respect for the process. So that's my big takeaway from that. Let's make mention of the one. That's right, the one. Now, I saw the total. Now, among FCS players, I believe I saw one report that there were 15. Hold on, I'm looking here. I'm on FCS Football Central.com. Yeah, that's our guy Blue's website. 15 FCS players were selected in the 2025 NFL draft. So that's up from 11 a year ago. Only one HBCU player was drafted. One player was drafted. And that was Alabama A&M senior offensive lineman Carson Vincent, who was selected in the 5th round, 3 spots before Shedeur, by the way, with the 141st overall pick by the Baltimore Ravens. Vincent, again, as mentioned, a 4-year player at Alabama A&M, 6'7", 314. He's the 20th Alabama A&M player selected in the draft, and the first since 2011 when Frank Curse was chosen by the Dolphins in the 7th round. Vincent became the first Bulldog offensive lineman taken since Joe Patton was selected in the 3rd round by the Washington Redskins. Let me see. What other superlatives are there? Of course, he's the second player from an HBCU taken in the draft. Of course, former Jackson State and Colorado receiver / cornerback Travis Hunter was taken number 2 overall. Vincent, he happened to be the only HBCU player that was invited to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. And he was the only one to participate in the 2025 Reese's Senior Bowl. So again, he's an AFCA, FCS All-American, Phil Steele, SWAC Offensive Lineman of the Year. All of the accolades that Vincent received in the draft led up to, I mean, the young man was worth, he lived up to the hype. And so Baltimore came and got him in the 5th round. And, congratulations to Carson for being selected by the Baltimore Ravens. So it brings to thoughts here as we look at the past several years, right, Drew? Of course, last year in 2024, you had 0 HBCU players drafted among 11 FCS players. In 23, you had 1 HBCU player among 10 FCS players, and that was Isaiah Bolden, cornerback from Jackson State, in the 7th round, pick number 245 by the New England Patriots. 2022 was a big year because you had 4 HBCU players, 3 of them from the FCS level, among the 20 FCS players, and 1 Division II player. Of course, you had Joshua Williams, who from Fayetteville State went in the 4th round to the Chiefs. You had Jacoby Durant, who was a 4th round pick, went to the Rams of South Carolina State. James Houston, the 4th, defensive end from Jackson State, went in the 6th round to the Lions. And Jatari Carter, a guard from Southern, went in the 7th round to the Bears. No HBCU players were drafted in 2021. And in 2020, the only player drafted was Latavius Simmons, a guard from Tennessee State, in the 7th round. I agree, Israel. Horrible data, but it's a reminder that that's where we are at. That's where we're at these days. So that number. Now, again, here's where we get into the semantics. Players who finished their career at HBCU. So by just that metric alone, since 2020, you have 7 players. 7 players. And that's in the last 6 NFL drafts. But this year is a little interesting. And I'd love to hear what you guys think, because this is a year where you had 5 HBCU players, whether it be former or current being finished their playing career at an HBCU. Of course, Travis Hunter, number 2 overall, Jackson State. Bishol Tootin, the running back, formerly for North Carolina A&T. I don't know if you remember him from a couple seasons ago. He transferred to Virginia Tech. He was drafted in the 4th round, number 104, to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Of course, you had Vincent in the 5th round. Then you had Shador, former Jackson State quarterback, all SWAC player of the year, Black College Football player of the year, all of the accolades that befitting someone of his stature go in the 5th round. And then you had Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who was drafted in the 7th round, number 254, by the Arizona Cardinals He started his career at Alabama State, later transferred to Arizona. So the question is, are we counting Hunter, Tootin, Sanders, Krosky, Merritt? Are you counting those guys? Do they count against the ledger? Do they count against the number? I'm curious. What do you guys think? It's one of those things where we might have to move the goalpost, but in the current state of college athletics, where we're seeing so many HBCU players take the opportunity to sort of transfer up to the Power 5, Power 4 level, that may become a norm. That may become more of a thing. I see this. Edwin says we're counting. So Edwin wants to count. I'm okay with that. ODB says, yes, we should count. Oh, this is horrible. That's like Vanderbilt claiming the Celebration Bowl championship because Jeremy Musa started it. Oh my God. Okay. I disagree with that, Jimmy Mack, but I respect your opinion. That is something that people will say. Graduate. Now, that's a good point, Israel, because graduated. That's interesting because, for example, Shiloh Sanders, although he was not drafted, he's a Jackson State graduate, went to Colorado for grad school. So, there's the interest. If he got drafted, we more like a Zay Green in the WNBA, young lady who graduated from UAPB, drafted in the WNBA, but actually she played her last year at Alabama. So, UAPB celebrated her as a graduate, which they should have, even though, elsewhere. Let's see. A&T Roy says, no, but we like that they were once at our schools and they're still Aggies or whatever. Okay. Let's see. Edwin says, if those players make the team, they will say that. Will they say? That's a good question. Will they? Will that be included on the byline? Will they own their heritage? I guess is what you're saying. Edwin, that's a great question. Will they own their heritage? All right. So, yeah, that's a good point too, right here by ODB. If you're here's the thing about adding them to your recruiting. Remember, they left your program to go somewhere else and get drafted. So, are you really going to prop them up, the fact that they left? Because that's what you're doing. And again, if they didn't graduate. Now, it's one thing if they graduated. But if they didn't graduate, I don't really know if you're really propping it up and saying, like I respect Jackson State for putting the props and the love out to Travis and Shador, because look, they won at a high level. And they still recognize and claim their time at Jackson State as being a part of their journey to where they got to. I don't think they're retiring numbers like what Colorado did.
Does number 2 come down? Oh, let me.
Number 12, I would retire. Maybe you retire number 12. Is he the first Heisman Trophy winner to have played at Jackson State?
No.
No, he's not.
Nope.
Really?
So because he didn't win the Heisman Trophy at Jackson State.
See, now we're getting to semantics now. Okay.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
If he wins the Heisman Trophy, then comes to Jackson State, that's a different story. If he wins the Heisman Trophy at Jackson State, that's a different story.
Let's wait until we see if they donate money. Look, we got actual people who graduated that haven't been donating money. So, I don't know. How much do they really love their time?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I think you hit on the key thing, Brian. Did they graduate from your respective institution. Number one. Or were they on track to graduate when they left? I think if they didn't graduate, did you spend over half of your collegiate career, maybe 3 years or more, at that HBCU? Then
if you spent 3 years, you should have graduated.
No, I mean, it takes 4 to graduate.
Nah, not when you're a college football player, because you got summer school that you get.
Yeah, but I may not have graduated because I need to leave that last semester to go somewhere else.
I got you. Now there you go. See, now that be proper. Now Israel, if y'all go ahead and now look, here's another thing, Israel. He may still have some credits open. So
because he hasn't graduated from Colorado.
He has not graduated from Colorado. So guess what? He could still take some last remaining classes from Jackson State and then qualify as a graduate technically of Jackson State.
No, that would not be technically.
I mean, in terms of
in
terms of the NFL name, and when you have your bio and you say, "Hey, where did you graduate from?" That's what I'm saying. Technically,
hey Bryan, when they introduce, and I hate to bring them back up, when they introduce Coach Prime Sanders, what do they say about him? From Florida State. They don't say he graduated from Talladega College.
All right.
What is your point?
Let's take a break, come back, and let's talk about some of the names that have signed the undrafted free agent contracts, which that is the large market and where we have seen the most HBCU players, especially over the last 5 years. We've seen more players go into the NFL from the UDFA market than we have the actual draft. So let's give those guys some love and talk about them on the other side of this break. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back here in just a moment.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
There's a shot. It might be. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you, guys, for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D here. Appreciate all of you guys for being a part of the conversation in the chat rooms, whether you're watching us on the MyJBN feed, Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, or our Facebook feeds, Black College Sports Network or BCSN SportsWrap. Might even be watching us on X, Twitter. So we say hello to everybody and appreciate you guys. Some good thoughts, conversations happening in the chat rooms. Definitely trying to put as much of them up as we can. So I'm going to refresh here the latest information courtesy of FCS Football Central. That's our friend Zach McKinnell. AKA Blue Bloods. Again, 15 FCS players were selected in the draft. 1 HBCU player. So this is the updated list as of 3:30 Eastern time, Drew. We have 56, and this is, of course, they cover FCS. So we have 56 undrafted free agent contracts. 41 minicamp invites. Now, Drew, do you want to break down for people who might not know the difference between the undrafted free agent signings and those who got minicamp invites?
Why not?
So I'm sorry, say it again.
I said, why not?
Okay, go ahead. I'm just saying.
Oh,
go
you
ahead.
asking me to break it down?
Yeah, or just explain the difference for people, someone who might not know.
Oh, I thought you were gonna break it down.
Reading the list, so I'm giving you something to do here.
The UDFAs are the ones who actually are signed. They are actually getting a. You got to help me out with this one and try to remember it. They're gonna get paid for camp, and they have the opportunity. Should they make the squad, their contract is already set. But those who are get minicamp invites, they still receive their daily per diem. But if they are picked up by their team, they still would have to negotiate a contract on the backside. That's my understanding of it, Bryan.
All right. So I'm reading from I'm going to read from an article. I think you're pretty much on point. I'm going to read from an article from HBCU Game Day from 2022 on this very topic, written by Tolly Carr back then. I'm just going to kind of summarize a few things. He says, the biggest thing that separates an undrafted free agent from a player on a tryout is the opportunity to make a team. Undrafted free agents have signed contracts, which represents a second tier of investment by the respective team. In the rookie pecking order, they are more of a priority than a camp invite. Camp invites are a long shot to make the team. There are no contracts given out to players who are invited to a camp tryout. These players already come in as long shot chances because teams passed over the opportunity to sign them twice, once in the draft and once as a free agent. The rookie mini camps will feature a mix of 40 to 60 players who are draft picks, undrafted free agents, and other tryout players. Players there on a tryout will need to do something impressive and do it quickly to stand out. The mini camps are only running for 2 or 3 days. No two teams will conduct transactions the same way, but generally 15 to 20 guys might get invited to camp, and a couple of the invites might sign free agent deals when it's over. Okay, so good article stuff there by Tolly from a couple of weeks ago. EA says there's also a priority undrafted free agent. All right, so that's interesting. All right, so here we go.
And Brian, can I sum this up? You remember those walk-ons in practice that you needed so that you could do the drills properly, and you needed extra bodies?
Yeah,
that's what those who are on a tryout are versus the UDFAs. The UDFAs, especially for this rookie camp, are what you would call your travel squad on the collegiate level.
Right. And it's not to say that an undrafted free agent can't muck it up. So, you know, he could, but you know,
and they have. There's going to be a number of them who will.
Right, but it's coming in. It's a team that they like something about you, and so you kind of walk in the door. You're still trying to prove yourself, but as the saying said already, you got one step, just one step, really. You know, if you really think about it, you're just one step ahead of the mini camp guy, right? All right, so here's some names. Now again, this is FCS, so you're going to see some names that were formerly HBCU guys that transferred to another program. For example, former Alabama State wide receiver Kissian Johnson. You remember him? That's a no. Okay, just say so. Don't leave me hanging. He went to Western Kentucky from Alabama State. He got an opportunity. He was signed, a UDFA signed to the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on down the list here, and I'm going down the list. Of course, you already mentioned Florida A&M defensive back, first team All-SWAC, Kendall Bowler, signed a contract with the Denver Broncos. Congratulations to him. Jackson State, former Jackson State / FAU defensive lineman Devontae Davis, again, started at Jackson State, transferred to FAU. He signed with my Indianapolis Colts, who they've done pretty good about keeping HBCU
guys.
Yeah, they do a good job of recognizing the talent there. Also from Jackson State, you got defensive back Robert McDaniel. He signed a UDFA with the Washington Commanders. Congratulations to those guys. Moving on down the list. Let's see. We get to North Carolina A&T offensive lineman Jason Ivey, signed with the Cleveland Browns, UDFA contract. North Carolina Central wide receiver Joaquin Davis signed a UDFA contract with the Denver Broncos. Also, former North Carolina Central offensive lineman who transferred to South Carolina, Torricelli Simpkins, he signed a UDFA with the New Orleans Saints. South Carolina State linebacker Aaron Smith, remember him from the we were really high on him. He had the record-setting performance in the Celebration Bowl. He signed a UDFA with the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's see, going on down the list here. And I think that is the last, at least currently, the last UDFA per FCS Football Central. If you guys have heard of any other names, UDFA contracts, please feel free to put it in the chat room. Let us know. Now, here are the minicamp invites as of right now from the FCS level. Just kind of scrolling through the names here. Howard defensive back Robert Jones. He has a couple of minicamp invites with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings. Howard defensive back Xavier. I think the name is Robu. Robiou is his last name. I don't want to butcher it any more than what I just did. He got a minicamp invite to the Washington Commanders camp. Jackson State running back Irv Mulligan, wasn't he the SWAC Player of the Year? SWAC Player of the Year got a minicamp invite to the New York Giants.
Heisman Trophy candidate. Let me stop.
We'll see. That Drew who said that, not me. Drew did that. Also, Jackson State edge rusher Philip Webb. He got a minicamp invite to the Miami Dolphins. Morgan State defensive lineman Elijah Williams got a minicamp invite to the Minnesota Vikings. Joe Quinn Davis, he got an invite to, well, it's already listed here as the Broncos. So I don't know. He got the invite, plus he got a UDFA. So I don't know how that works. North Carolina Central's Quantez Mansfield, defensive lineman. He got an invite to the Minnesota Vikings. Scrolling down. I guess, and I guess the only other minicamp invite, I guess we could add in there. Well, I don't know. Did Shiloh get a UDFA or did he get a minicamp invite?
UDFA with the Bucks.
With the Tampa Bay Bucks. So that's former Jackson State defensive back and graduate. Former Jackson State defensive back / graduate. Jackson State. Although I don't know if I want to just say alumnus crew because I learned that anyone who attended is an alum. So that's why I have to call him a graduate of Jackson State. He got a UDFA to Tampa Bay Bucks. So, and again, you know, these are the invites could turn into UDFAs. You know, I see Kylan said he thought Elijah would at least get a UDFA. I mean, it's possible. You know, that's what you have agents for. You know, that's what his agent may be working toward. Seven McGee, who I'm not familiar. Seven McGee, help me out here. I don't see his name on the list, so you may be ahead of. Again, I know there's a couple other trackers here. Again, I'm reading from the FCS Football Central tracker. I know Hero Sports also has a tracker as well. So there's maybe there. I think also the CFL's draft is sometime this week. So there may be opportunities for some guys in the CFL. We do know that of course, the Spring Football League, known as the UFL, is happening right now. And I think there's another league there's a World Football League that's happening upcoming.
Yeah, you've got I think you have Arena League also.
Yeah, there's some arena football opportunities. So there's a lot of guys still going to be chasing the dream after this weekend, and you know, just trying to get a shot. So we wish all those guys the best. See what happens. So, anything else that you wanted to mention, Drew, regarding the draft and just this where we are? You know, again, and I guess next year we'll have to be more specific about how we word the over under, and we'll have to say it as HBCU players that finish their playing career at an HBCU. How many will go in the draft? How many will be drafted? Because again, if we just said HBCU players, we might lose because there were 5 former HBCU players, but we didn't necessarily. I don't know. That's poor job by the book. The book did a poor job of specifying what the parameters of the contest was, right?
And the only thing I'm going to add, Brian, is a lot of these players who began their careers with us at the HBCU level and then have gone on to other places looking for that greener pasture to lead to the potential of them getting drafted. Well, how did that turn out for you? For a lot of them.
And first off, Jeff, I'm going to bring that up. I do not know if I haven't seen any CIAA or
know I
SIC
have
players.
not. Somebody from the SIAC. I know I have not heard of any SIAC players that have been picked up as of yet.
And again, a lot of that.
I'm sure of the CIAA, but I'm 99% sure there's a zero from the SIAC.
And there were some names there at the Division II level.
Both of them. You know, the one that's kind of shocking is a young man by the name of Jada Byers.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to that's got to be a lot of work for whoever his agent. There's an NFL Europe League still. I didn't know there was an NFL Europe League. Okay. Now, that would make sense given the popularity of the NFL over in Europe. Yeah. So, I mean, there are opportunities. There are ways for guys to find their way if you can showcase, your talent somewhere. But it's a hard road, man. It's a hard road. So
it's hard out here for a pimp.
Well, and it just goes to the bigger point, Drew, that you got to get the most out of the years that you have in college. And the one thing I was going to bring up is, and we'll have to look at this, do a study on this and look at the numbers. Is there something to be said about guys who transfer one time and have been or have stayed at one school, a la Carson Benson, or have gone to maybe just one transfer versus what we're seeing a lot, Drew? We're seeing guys who have been at 3 schools in 5 years.
Heck, the guy who just went #1 overall, how many schools did he play for?
Cam Ward, 2, I believe. No, 3. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. So maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. That's a good point. Maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, there's a good point. I kind of forgot that he started at Incarnate Word, then went to Washington State, and finished his last year at Miami. Yeah. And there's gonna be others. Look at the draft. They're already talking. Look at the kid from who's going to Miami. He's gonna have a couple of schools under his belt. Carson Beck. I think so.
Super Bowl MVP went to 2 schools.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well. All right. Let's kind of spin it forward. I was just sitting here bumping around and seeing if there were any other non-draft related stories. But let's I did see that kind of spinning it forward here. Diamond Johnson. Remember we talked about her not getting drafted by the WNBA despite being a top 6 recruit in the same draft in the same class with 4 NCAA champions and 5 first round WNBA players, yeah,
including the #1 overall pick.
Right. Well, she will have a chance to make a roster. She did receive a training camp contract with the Minnesota Lynx. That was announced on Thursday. This is an article from Chris Stevens of HBCU Sports. Johnson, of course, she's a 5'6" guard from Philadelphia. She was actually, didn't make the first 3 rounds of the draft, which shocked a lot of people. And so we'll see. I'm just kind of looking at here. Let's see. The Minnesota Lynx are the team that lost in the WNBA Finals to the New York Liberty in 5 games. And according to Steven's article, he says they have a few questions at the guard position, which gives Johnson a fair chance to make the team. So
that's all you want.
That's it. That's it. A shot. So we'll see. We'll see. Good luck to Diamond Johnson. Hopefully it works out for her. All right, that was the one non-football story I came across here. A lot of other stuff still waiting to be seen. I think some transfer portal news. I think a lot of people are waiting on the kid out of Howard, Blake Harper, to make his decision. I think I saw something he's supposed to be making. Actually, he probably already made it. Check your Twitter feeds, because I think I saw something that said 3:00 Pacific time he was going to make his decision. So I don't know. Anybody want to check Blake Harper's Twitter feed and see did he actually declare where he's going? He had down to 4 schools like Howard, Creighton. ODB said he's going to Creighton. So that was one of the 4. So there you go. Probably got a nice NFL package. Speaking of Howard, though, Drew, they happened to pick up one of your former guys from Morehouse College. He's going to take, I don't know, maybe, look, I would say Howard is probably okay letting Blake Harper go, because they picked up a young man from Morehouse. You caught that. You know about that story.
Oh, yeah, yes, I know about it. Definitely know about it. And
what was his name again?
That would be Cedric Taylor.
Yeah.
And I can't make any comments about it though. But
all right. Well, since you're giving me the name, I'll do all the commenting then. Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Cedric Taylor, I believe he's an Atlanta native. I think he was the SIC Freshman of the Year last year, and this year I think he was definitely probably first or second team, all SIC, probably first team. He's a heck of a player. I had a chance to call a couple games, see him in person. Heck of a player, heck of a talent from the Atlanta area. And while he probably is, yes, he did play in the Morehouse Howard game. So Howard got a chance to see him firsthand. I don't know what he did in that game, statistically speaking, but he's a 6'7" wing guard, and Blake Harper was about 6'7". So you lose a Blake Harper and you gain a Cedric Taylor who, for all intents and purposes, was probably always a D1 player, and he landed at Morehouse. So that was a get for Morehouse. Yeah. So yeah. I'm not gonna ask Drew to comment, but anyway.
Appreciate that.
I get you. Here's the thing. What about there was a running thought, Drew, and before we kind of talk a little bit about what's happening on the diamond for softball and baseball, and I think Ed brought this up, and it made me think about this. There was a talk happening at the end of day 2 that Shedeur should consider suing to go back to college for his 1 year of eligibility remaining, because he would earn more in NIL than what he is currently going to make this year as an NFL pro player. Not talking sponsorships, obviously, but from just on the field performance, on the field play. He'll make more in college than he would. And it brought up an interesting, I'm not a legal professor, but if I had to make an argument, if I had to throw this out there to you, Drew, and said, here's a young man who was graded by most scouting services and publications a first-round talent, slipped into the fourth or later rounds, which is, you called it, a $40 million loss in potential earnings. And he still has a year of college eligibility left. Still has to get a degree.
Okay, can I stop you right there?
Okay, sure.
He's done 4 years of eligibility. Where does he have another year in? Because none of the current rulings that have granted the fifth year apply to him. Because the ones who get the fifth year either play JUCO or NAIA ball, and he did neither.
But you know what he did do? He enrolled early in the spring COVID year, which players got back. So since he was, and he didn't play, but he was already an enrolled Jackson State student in that spring season, which was technically Deion Sanders' first season. So, you know, I think that would be where that's where it would have come from. So good to see you, HBCU Overdrive, checking in. Good to see you. All right, so Drew must have had to step away for a second. So let me take another quick break, give him a chance to catch up, and then we're going to kind of finish the show up talking about what's happening on the diamond. Only on the BCSN SportsWrap, where we can do live phone breaks in the middle of the show.
Bryan, I was going to comment on something. You mentioned about the COVID year. The COVID exemption expires at the end of this athletic season. Despite the fact that he enrolled her, the COVID exemption expires this year.
But but you didn't use it. How can it expire and you didn't use it?
The COVID exemption expires this year.
That doesn't make sense.
We no longer have to deal with that as an exception to when determining eligibility.
You don't have to, but you can.
Because it expires. The COVID exemption has expired.
Okay. Well, then I don't understand. Well, they were. I don't. Okay.
No, I mean, as it is.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but there was a report that he had a year of eligibility left.
Last year that you could use a COVID exemption. 2021. Let's see. It was 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. The COVID exemption has expired.
All right. I want a little clarification on that. I mean, it's not that I don't take your word. I got to go back and look at the article where this was first theorized, and then maybe I can find it during the break. But all right, we're going to come back, take a short break. We're going to finish up talking about the action that's happening on the baseball and softball diamonds, and then kind of close out the show here. So hang tight with us. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Woman Voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford, A.D. Drew here. Okay, so the last segment we were talking about the prospects of, could Shedeur have gone back to college? And again, so I first heard this. I'm just going to say where I heard it. I first saw this on ProFootballTalk.com. The guy who runs that, Mike Florio, he was the one who theorized about that particular situation and whether that was something that could be done. So anyway, I thought there was a post. I thought there was a post about it, but it's more of a commentary article.
Yeah, and Brian, why should he get rewarded with another year because of his ineptness?
Whoa! Really, Drew? His ineptness? Come on.
Because somehow he possibly took a bad approach. We should reward him. We should change the system for one player. Because, and the reason I say that is because the decision to award Shedeur that extra year would have longer term ramifications for the NFL and the draft process, not only for the NFL, but then you could do the same thing with basketball, and baseball already has the option.
But he would be challenging it's really what he's challenging is the rule by the NCAA, which right now everybody is challenging everything at the NCAA level. And I think that's where the thought was. It was like, the NCAA is being challenged by guys who were in JUCO, guys who were in Division II. I mean, you want an extra year? Okay, what's your challenge? What's your reason? Okay, that's a good reason. Come on, we'll let you get another year. I mean, hell, everybody's getting another year for some reason. So I think that's where the argument was coming from. So I'm just saying, I'm just looking at, hey, if I haven't graduated from college, I still now you're saying he doesn't have a year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look into it.
And let me comment, Jay back. We did get a memo earlier this year about that, and that this was the last year that we could apply that exemption. So that's why I am definitively saying that the exemption ends at the end of this athletic season.
All right. The last story I want to make mention of the Shedeur Sanders weekend was the Saturday prank call.
Oh my God.
That somebody had called him on a NFL supplied phone. Now, again, this was a phone that apparently was supplied by the NFL. And the only people who were supposed to have his number were the 32 NFL teams so that they could contact him, right? And it was supposed to be, you know, a private phone where, you know, the only people who had this number were NFL teams. Well, somehow somebody had got a hold of the phone and basically called him saying that they were so-and-so from a particular team. If I'm mistaken, I'm trying to look and see. Well, I saw the prank on video, but essentially they contacted him and they made it. They sounded like they were a GM, and they said, and I picked this up because initially there was a video of just Shedeur because they were filming everything. Right? Well, somebody on the video said at the end of the call, "Hey, we're going to draft you, so and so and so," but they finished the call by saying, "But you're going to have to wait." Okay. Now, that was cold. And if you hadn't seen the video, it's out there. That was pretty cold.
That was nasty.
It was a nasty prank call. Now, you know, people have made a career off doing prank calls, right? So
that's worse than Nephew Tommy.
And we have laughed. I have laughed at some of those prank calls, you know. But yeah, that was cold. But okay, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I've never laughed at one before. So I'm guilty. Okay. But that was, did you just give me the look?
Did what?
I thought you just gave me a side eye for laughing at those prank.
No, I mean that was Nephew Tommy off the Steve Harvey Morning Show on steroids.
Either Nephew Tommy, Stuttering John off Howard Stern, any one of those two, you know, any of them. Okay. But needless to say, there was another video that came out that showed two college students, because of course, you know, college kids, this is a dumb thing. Kids do dumb things. I learned this as a high school teacher. Kids do dumb things, sometimes things they're not supposed to do, and they record this. They record it. You idiots record everything. So they would have probably gotten away with this had it not been for the fact, Drew, that they recorded them making the prank call to Shedeur. And it was two guys, turned out to be guys who were at Ole Miss. Right? Okay. So at first, you know, Twitter detectives were on the case and instantly put together, maybe falsely, Drew, they put together that because the only people who had these numbers were NFL executives. So they quickly put together that one particular GM's daughter was an Ole Miss student. And I think it was the general manager for the New York Giants. They had somehow put together that she was an Ole Miss student and she probably had something to do with it. Well, then it came out that one of the two kids in the photo was actually the son of the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. And so the report came out this afternoon, right as about the NFL was said to be investigating what happened. I saw that the Atlanta Falcons released a statement admitting that the defensive coordinator's son was behind the Shedeur Sanders prank call. I'm reading an article here from Pro Football Talk, and I had oh God, Drew, hold on. Did I not share this with you? I thought I had the actual message from the Falcons. I'm trying to see. I had it in my Twitter feed. I know I sent it to a couple of people already. Damn, where is it? Anyway, let me read the statement from the Falcons. So The Falcons announced that the prank call placed during the second night of the draft traces to defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. In a statement, the Falcons said that Ulbrich's 21-year-old son, Jax, now get this, quote, unintentionally came across the draft contact phone number for Sanders. It was on an, quote, open iPad while Jax was visiting his parents' home. He wrote the number down with the plan to use it for a prank call. Now, per the Falcons, Jeff Ulbrich was not aware of the situation until after the call happened. Quote, the Atlanta Falcons do not condone this behavior and send our sincere apologies to Shedeur Sanders and his family. The statement reads, adding that the team has reached out to apologize to Sanders directly. The team also facilitated an apology from Jax to Shedeur. Quote, we have also been in contact with the NFL and will continue to cooperate fully with any inquiries we may receive from the NFL league office. It says the Falcons are imposing no discipline on Ulbrich, and the statement does not apply to any other prank calls made to prospects during the draft. Apparently, there was a prank call made to the Colts tight end Tyler Warren. I don't know who made that one, but another player was called after he was drafted and told he'd been traded. So, damn, that's cold. So, yeah.
Brian, probably the most popular player in Atlanta Falcon history. And someone did that to his son.
Who, Mike Vick?
No, Dion.
All right. Well,
I mean,
these kids don't. All these kids were thinking about was a laugh, recording it, getting clicks and views, not thinking that you might cost your daddy his job. You know what I'm saying? That's essentially what. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if
Arthur Blank has already had that conversation?
Can you imagine if he loses his job because your son happened to look at your iPad, see Shedeur's phone numbers, and think to himself, "I'm going to make a prank call." How pissed would you be as a parent?
Brian, he can't lose his job if our defense secretary can send texts to the wrong people. So that's no worse than that. Let me not get political on here.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, but no, that was very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate situation there, Brian. And it just shows the stupidity of those people who get caught and post on Facebook. That's why the police department's first, when young folk, when you commit a crime, the police department, the first thing they check is social media. Because if you don't tell on yourself, somebody else is going to tell on you via social media.
You just can't help yourself.
And the investigation begins. I wish I had the Law and Order don't right now.
That'd be a great soundbite. We gotta start incorporating some sound bites. That'd have been a great soundbite to play with this. Don't. But yeah, no, I mean, man, dude might have cost his daddy a job. And it's just like, really? All right. Let's get into, while we got some time here as we close the show, let's get into let's make some mentions here of baseball and softball updates across the HBCU sporting diaspora. Let's kind of start at let's
start the SWAC baseball, man.
Oh, you want to start? I was going to save that for last, but let's go.
We need to say the tournaments. Let's start with Let's start with SWAC baseball, man.
All right, SWAC baseball. Drew wants to start with SWAC baseball. When I was on Doc's show earlier in the week, I said, watch out for UAPB, the Golden Lions. And sure enough, the Golden Lions took 2 of 3. They took the first 2 games in their series against Bethune-Cookman. I lost Drew, but they took the first 2 games in that series. I got to pull up. I wasn't prepared to start talking about SWAC baseball just yet. I do know the fact that they won game 1 on a walk-off throwing error by Bethune-Cookman. It's actually the first series that Bethune has lost all season. Prior to that, they had won every series. And coming into game 1 of the series against UAPB, they were on I believe, a 7-game win streak, which included a win over USF. Which is part of the AAC or American Athletic Conference, something to that, But anyway, UAPB won game number 1 on a walk-off. And then on game 2, they beat Bethune 8-5 to win the series. They tried to go for the sweep. They ended up getting shut out 9-0. But the damage had already been done in that win. UAPB continues to be the hot team right now, Drew, as this is the 3rd series that they have won in the SWAC, having swept the 2 previous series. Also, this particular weekend, coming into the start of the weekend, Bethune was a 3-game lead over 4 teams. 4 teams, Drew.
Nobody swept the series in those top 6 teams that were in contention.
Right. No sweeps. But there was a little bit of movement because, the 2, 3, 4, and 5 teams all had to play each other.
Yes.
You had
and the 1 and the 6 played each other.
And the 1 and the 6. So you had this was a great weekend for SWAC baseball. You had the top teams playing. So what do we have? So one of those series was Grambling State and Florida A&M. A series which this was the first time I think Grambling had been to Tallahassee in probably years, because usually they've been playing that series in Atlanta as part of like the Gar Lucas Classic, right? Grambling won game 1, 6-4. Also coincided with the 100th career win of their head coach, Coach Pierre, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And that was his 100th career win at Grambling. But the Rattlers answered, winning 11-4 on Saturday in game 2. And then they won 11-9 today in game 3. All right. So then the other matchup between teams in the 2 through 6 spot, 2 through 5 spots, was Texas Southern and Alabama State. And let's see, Alabama State won game number 1 on Friday, 10-7. Texas Southern would lose game number 2, 9-2. So Alabama State wins the series, but then they went for the sweep today, and Texas Southern held them off with a 4-3 victory to prevent the sweep, as Drew was saying. So what do the standings look like, Drew, as we go into the final 3 weekends? Again, 3 more weekends of SWAC baseball left, but the commanding lead by Bethune-Cookman is not so commanding.
Yes. I think the more interesting thing, because 1 through 6, we'll come back to 1 through 6, Brian. I think what you need to look at is 7 through 10. Because 10 of the 12 teams in the SWAC are in contention for the tournament. Now, what happened down at the bottom of the standings, Brian? Well, how about Jackson State? As now my page won't load. Jackson State faced face Alcorn. Here's the problem, Brian. In a series, realistically, Jackson State should have swept, correct?
Yeah, they should have. They didn't.
They only got one because of weather.
Oh, they only played one game.
They only got one game in. So
okay.
Same thing happened with Valley and I think Valley and Southern. Valley and Southern only got one game in.
Right.
Due to weather. And PV jumps Valley with PV sweeping Alabama A&M. So weather has played a factor into this now. You know, Jackson State and Southern end the season against each other. Prairie View is climbing back into the race. Prairie View has the tiebreak against Southern and has the tiebreak against Jackson State, who have to face each other. So as of right now, Prairie View, one game back of 8 behind Southern, 2 games back of Jackson State, is sitting in a very good spot, Brian, to be able to do something, because right now they own the all-important tiebreaker against the 2 teams in front of them. And also, let me make sure I'm getting this right. No. Prairie View does not play Valley, the team that is trailing them in this thing.
Prairie View still has to make up a series with UAPB.
Not necessarily.
Well, but
long as you get the minimal number of games in, you don't have to go back and make those games up. It goes.
Okay, so what's going to happen then? Because
I believe the number is 24. As long as you get 24 in.
Okay.
And then it goes to percentages.
Well, so that's UA. Okay, so win percent. Okay,
so let's go through this. Valley and Southern just played. Valley lost the 1 game to Southern, so Southern would own the tiebreak against Valley. Valley this weekend, and Valley has their own fate in their hand. They have Jackson State this upcoming weekend, Prairie View the following weekend before closing out with Grambling State. So Valley, say what we want to about Valley. Valley controls their own destiny, Brian. 2 of 3 against in these next 2 series, Valley is set up to get in.
Okay. So here's what we have coming up this upcoming weekend. Again, to set the standings here, because Drew was talking about the bottom of the brackets, but the standings are Bethune has now they went from having a 3-game lead to a 2-game lead. Bethune has a 2-game lead in first place over now just 2 teams instead of 4. And those 2 teams are Florida A&M, who they swept, and Alabama State, who, guess what? They play this weekend. Bethune v. Alabama State playing this weekend. That should be a big series. Big series. Alabama State could find themselves in first place should they be able to, they'd have to sweep or at least win 2 of the 3. Is that right? No, they have to sweep to get first place.
Who is that? Alabama State?
Yeah.
Yes, they would have to sweep.
You're 2 games behind. You'd have to sweep to get first place.
They would have to sweep. And Florida A&M would have to drop 1.
Right. Now, Florida A&M this weekend is playing Alabama A&M, who is 2-19 right now.
Chances of FAMU sweeping are great.
Great. Also playing this weekend, interesting series, the hot playing UAPB Golden Lions. They're traveling to Grambling State this weekend. So
they could pick up all their ground.
They could. And another interesting matchup, Texas Southern and Southern. Texas Southern has fallen to a tie for third with Grambling. So Texas Southern and Grambling, they are 3 games out of first place. You still have, again, 3 teams. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams within 3 games of first place with 9 games remaining.
Right.
But
like I said, I think the more interesting race is for those last 2 spots, Brian.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's move over to the softball diamond in the SWAC, since we're in the SWAC. Prairie View A&M gets another sweep as they finish the West Division with a 20-3 conference record. Again, they're only playing divisions, so they beat up on the teams in the division that they were supposed to beat up on. 20-3, 26-19 overall. They'll head into the SWAC tournament as the number 1 seed in the West. Florida A&M, the Lady Rattlers, they took 2 of 3 over Alabama State, and they will win the East Division for the 2nd consecutive year as they finished 19-5. And this also happens to be 2nd division crown with a new coach, 2nd coach. So, of course, the coach last year, Camise Patterson, she's the head coach at Alabama State. And this year, Brittany Beal, the new coach there. So now also only 8 teams get into the SWAC softball tournament, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And by looking at it, from the East, you'll have Florida A&M, Jackson State, and Bethune tied for 2nd. Alabama State is the 4th in the East. Over on the West, you have Prairie View A&M. Then you have Southern as number 2 by percentage, not wins and losses, but by percentage. By let me see, 0.2 of 100 over Texas Southern. They finished 3rd. And then even more interesting, Grambling gets in by finishing 0.9 of 100 over Arkansas Pine Bluff, despite Pine Bluff having 1 more win, but 2 more losses. So, and Grambling State has lost like 5 in a row coming into the game. And so that's one of those situations, Drew, that I'm sure if I'm a Arkansas Pine Bluff fan, I'm wanting Grambling State to play whatever series it was that they didn't play, just for the purposes of making up that series. Because if Grambling were to lose 1 more game, maybe even 2 more games, again, Grambling State softball is on a 5-game losing streak. Conceivably, I don't know who that series is against. I'm looking at the total numbers here. I would imagine it looks like that series is probably against maybe Southern. Yeah, so interesting. I don't know if they're going to make any makeups, because you have until May 6th. So you actually, if you needed to do a makeup, you could technically do a makeup in the SWAC softball season this weekend. But I guess we'll stay tuned and find out. Maybe we'll have some more info about that upcoming. All right. One more Division I softball update. It's a wrap in the MEAC. Howard University has won their first ever regular season title in the MEAC softball world. They took 2 games from Norfolk State over the weekend, who was technically in 2nd place by 3 games. So Norfolk State technically had to sweep in order to force a tie. But they defeated Norfolk State 10-3 and 7-3 in the opening weekend. And so congratulations to the Lady Bison, the first overall regular season softball title for them. All right. That's the Division I level. Let's move over to the NAIA in Division II, Drew, because this is where you got some tournaments that have happened, some tournaments that are happening. Let me start over in the HBCU AC, where on the softball field, Stillman College, they finished as the regular season champions with a perfect unbeaten record, and then they went on and won the tournament. So first time in history, I believe that has happened. And that's a one bid league, I think you said, right? In softball?
Yes.
All right. So Stillman will advance to the NAIA National Tournament representing the HBCU AC. The baseball tournament for the HBCU AC begins Wednesday, April 30th through May 4th. It's going to be in North Little Rock, Arkansas at Dickey Stevens Park. The Talladega Tornadoes, who have a 27-3 conference record, 36-14 overall. They are the number one team in the Black College 9 small school division poll. They will look to finish off the outstanding tournament with a win. And last check of the tournament central page for the GCAC, we didn't have the pairings, but I'm sure if you guys go check out hbcuac.org, you can figure out, you'll see more info on the tournament schedule. Anything else you want to add there on the HBCU AC, Drew?
No. It's just first of all, congratulations to the Stillman Tigers, ladies, as they are not nationally ranked. Don't expect them to host, but definitely want them to go out and represent us well.
All right. I'll quickly mention the CIAA, which only has softball, no baseball in the CIAA. Their conference tournament begins Wednesday as well in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Bowie State, they are the Northern Division champs. They finished unbeaten 15-0 in conference with a 23-17 record. Now, over on the Southern side, a little bit different story. According to the website, it's Claflin that is in first. Now, here's the thing. Within the division, Drew, Claflin has a 9-1 record compared to an 8-2 record in division by Winston-Salem State. But in the conference standings, Claflin trails Winston-Salem State by a game. Claflin is 10-6. Winston-Salem State is 11-5. So, again, I don't have a bracket, Drew, but it would appear to me that they value division first in the CIAA.
Which CIAA does. And I believe they have one more week of regular season in the CIAA. Am I correct with that, Bryan?
When I'm looking at the schedule,
or they done and just wait.
No, they go. Their tournament begins Wednesday the 30th.
Oh, so they're done also. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I was just trying to determine who the one seed was, and I'm gonna have to assume that it's presume it's Claflin, based on them going with the ones, the division standings first. All right. Now let's talk about the SIC as we kind of wrap up the Diamond Talk. The softball tournament for the SIC begins Monday. That's tomorrow. Edward Waters, they are the East Division champs. They finished with a 18-6 conference record, 27-23 overall. Tuskegee, the West Division champs, they had a 20-2 conference record and a 26-6 overall record. I'm telling you, that's a hell of a difference in games, Drew. Edward Waters getting in 50 games, Tuskegee only playing 32. If my numbers are correct there. Anything you want to, obviously softball is not a sport that you guys have, but anything you want to add there with softball tournament, where is the softball tournament at?
Right. Columbus. Softball tournament's in Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, Georgia is where the softball tournament.
Yes.
Probably streaming on the SIAC network.
Probably not streaming on the SIAC network.
Okay.
Yeah, that's South Commons in Columbus, Georgia. And the power has traditionally been in the West for softball. Your Tuskegees, your Mileses, your Spring Hills. So Edward Waters, they did win that. I believe that was 2 years ago that they won the
23.
Yes, that they won it when they were ineligible, and Tuskegee wound up getting the bid because of their them being ineligible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's baseball begins on Thursday. So, and where's the baseball tournament at?
Macon, Georgia.
All right, baseball's in Macon, Georgia. So they begin on Thursday, right after or right as softball is concluding.
Yep. They'll be riding down US 80 from Columbus to Macon.
And the baseball in the SWAC, in SIAC is like baseball in the SWAC. There are no divisions. It's just
for the first. No, they started it. Actually, SIAC was first with the no divisions. This first year for the SWAC.
Okay.
Yeah, they went away from divisions when they expanded and added Edward Waters to the mix.
But softball still has it.
Softball still has divisions, yes.
Gotcha. All right. So Spring Hill, they're the regular season champs. 29-3 conference record, 36-12 overall. Edward Waters is its second with a 25-8 conference record, 33-16 overall. So those are your top two teams.
Edward Waters actually jumped Savannah State this weekend.
Okay.
Yes, those two teams flip-flop. And honestly, 2 and 3, it really doesn't matter too much. 2 and 3, the big thing is they're avoiding, if the C's play out, the winner of that game, they're avoiding Spring Hill until the game before the elimination game, before you have to play the one extra game to get back into the tournament.
All right. Anything else you want to add there? I'm looking at this one last update here from FCS Football Central.
Did we get HBCU AC baseball?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, I believe that is all of the tournaments. One thing I want to do, track, Bryan, in the SIAC. Congratulations to Tuskegee and Benedict. Tuskegee on the women's side, Benedict on the men's side for winning the track championship this past weekend. With Tuskegee kind of won going away versus Benedict, who had a very close match there. And in the CIAA track meet, I believe, is this upcoming week. Will be the CIAA. Yes, May 2nd and 3rd will be the CIAA championships in track.
Okay. Good stuff, Drew. Good stuff. Again, want to encourage you guys, if you're interested, go check out FCS Football Central. That is si.com/college/FCS. They have a good Zach McKinnon keeps up with the FCS football undrafted rookies tracker. And again, right now we're up to 60 FCS players who have signed undrafted free agent contracts. No new HBCU players from the past hour. And we're up to 46 minicamp invites. So that's a total of 106 players getting an opportunity through the open market. We'll see if any more HBCU players get an opportunity. All right. That's all we've got for tonight. I think we can close the show out. Drew, you got a busy week this week. What do you guys got going? I know you're going to be busy this week.
Brian, I'm busy every week, man.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't want to diminish or sorry.
They ran 100 miles and still got one to go. No, we actually have our athletic banquet tomorrow night at Morehouse College. So that'll be how I start my week off. So
I want to give an encouraging word if you're looking for a movie to watch. I know it's kind of late on a Sunday, but maybe you're looking for something, I don't know, one of these days during this week. If you have Amazon Prime, I want to encourage you to check out the new movie G20 featuring Viola Davis. Anthony Anderson kind of has this, supporting cast role, but it's more so about Viola Davis. And just to briefly summarize it, Drew, we love movies where we see the president of the United States be a total badass, right? I think we've seen that from Harrison Ford. We've seen it from Jamie Foxx, right? This is the first movie featuring a Black woman, being a total badass in the role of the president of the United States. That's all I'm gonna spoil, but I would encourage you.
I would have loved to have seen a woman of color in that role for real. But anyway,
but it is a total badass movie. Viola does a great job in the role. I wasn't sure. I saw the previews and wasn't really sure I was gonna like it.
Viola Davis from How to Get Away with Murder.
That's that Viola Davis.
Oh, yes. I can imagine that.
Yes. Okay, it does bring up. If you enjoyed her in that role, maybe that's why because I did like her show in that role, and so this maybe that's why I like her in this role.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's worth the watch. 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. I rated it on Amazon Prime, and so I would encourage you. So that's my movie recommendation. Last week I told you to go see Sinners. This week I'm telling you to watch G20, and I think I'll have a new one for you next week. I think I'm gonna do that every week, Drew. I'm gonna try to give movie recommendations every week.
Yeah, not bad, man. One other thing I wanted to throw out there, Brian. Let's see if I could bring this on the screen. Of course not. I'm on the wrong screen. Give me just a second. All right, here we go.
What are you sharing something?
Yeah, I'm trying to share it if I can get to the right.
Don't put up something that's going to get us banned on YouTube again. I have to go behind and clean up stuff that you flash on, because YouTube has restrictions.
No, nothing like that. Just wanted if you're in the Montgomery area next week, not this week, next week, make sure you go by and check out the HBCU Final Four presented by the Minority Baseball Prospects. New baseball tournament that will be featuring Division II and NAIA teams in a new format as they battle as a postseason tournament for baseball this year, Brian.
Really?
Yes. That'll be at Riverwalk Stadium in Montgomery, Alabama.
And who's it featuring?
The Minority Baseball Prospects is putting it on. The teams that have been invited are Dillard University, Tuskegee University, Morehouse College, and Miles College.
Okay. But this is different than a national championship.
This is different. This is different than the Black College World Series.
Different than Black College World Series.
Yes. And speaking of the Black College World Series, Brian, I think this is the first time that we have been together on the show, but I think I broke the news on Tuesday on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Michael Coker, founder and proprietor of the Black College World Series, lead writer for the Black College Nines, passed away on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And he had been battling cancer for a while. So, still have not heard official word whether the Black College World Series will continue this year or will they take a year off from that. We have not heard an official word on that, but big loss for the HBCU sports community, especially if you were a baseball fan, because there was one thing about Coker. He promoted baseball.
Yes, he did.
He believed in Black college baseball, and and he had no problems telling you about it. And if you didn't want to hear it, he did not care if you got upset about it or not. He was going to do what he felt was right to promote the game that he loved.
Yep. I made a closing comment on Wednesday's ONG, and I think the overall sentiment was the passion that so many of us have for football or basketball. He had it for baseball, and I think that was meeting him and hearing about baseball and being a part of the HBCU baseball coverage. I'm a pollster for Black College Nines.
And so am I.
And so my interest and enthusiasm in baseball grew from meeting Michael. And so, hopefully others will continue to carry the torch for Black college HBCU baseball the way Michael Coker did. And so it's a tremendous loss. And so I think we both share the sentiment. We just ask your prayers and thoughts for the Coker family, the Black College Nines family, and anybody who was touched or moved or inspired in any way by Michael Coker. We say rest in heaven, Mike, and you'll be up there, I'm sure, covering the great baseball games by some of the HBCU legends. So with that said, make sure you guys check out blackcollegenines.com. Make sure you show support for what they do as they continue to.
And they'll be going through a transition also. Somebody has to take over a lot of the writing that Coker was doing.
Yeah. So,
and he was posting articles to the end.
He was. So hopefully, if you guys shows your support and patronage for what they do, because it is a passion, and we've said all we could say. So thank you guys for your support, your enthusiasm for our show. What's this final question?
If there's anyone we're close with him that would be able to carry on without starting from scratch. Well, Coker was not the only person associated with Black College Nines, but he was the person who was out front. There are a couple of other
senior writer.
Senior writer. There are a couple other people who associated with Black College Nines who stay back intentionally because they do not like being the public face. Coker did not mind being the public face. So Black College Nines itself will continue on for right now. It's just who's going to take over that role as the senior writer. But as far as the website will remain up, things of that nature will still be there. The historical piece of Black College Nine is going to be there. There may be a short transition time as far as newer content coming out, especially the daily and weekly posts that you were getting. The poll, matter of fact, the polls went up the day that it was made public because we found out a day before it was made public. So the polls still went on like they do. The polls will still continue on for the remainder of this season. Don't know how that is going to happen, but I do not expect a big drop off. I do not expect Black College Nines to go the way of Honored, if that's where you're going at with that question.
That one just, that's all right. Let's put a bow on the show. Please, however and wherever you consume the shows on the Black College Sports Network, I want to encourage you to go check out the podcasts that are on the BCSN Pod Zone. All of the shows. The Carlos Brown Show is now available on podcast, BCSN Pod Zone. This show will be later tonight, or it'll be available for you in the morning. All of the shows, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab in the week, the ONG Strike Zone in the week. Just search BCSN Pod Zone, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your favorite platforms. It's all there. Please download, subscribe, rate, and review wherever platform you get. It's much appreciated. And if you would, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up and the like button out the door. Thank you to all of the family watching on Twitter, watching on YouTube, and on Facebook. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Congratulations to all of the young men that are getting a chance to continue their career. And for those who have not gotten the call, stay hungry, stay prayed up, and your time will come. All right. For A.D. Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Thanks for watching tonight's show. Peace out, everybody.
Travel light, everybody. Well,